And we are live.
Alrighty. My name is David Streggy. I'm one of the founding fathers of Inside Movies Galore. So thank you for coming along with us on this fantabulous journey we've been having. I think we've had a great year so far, and it's time for us to do our year-end review. Dum dum dum. So I'll leave this over to Brandon so that he can bring us through what kind of crap movies we've been watching.
So as we started last year with this, and if you want to, you should check out our last year video where we looked at everything we saw in 2023. This time, we're looking at everything we saw in 2024. So what we're going to do is we're just going to rate it to see how much we liked it as a group. And I'm just going to use simple math. Anyone in this group that has seen the film is welcome. You didn't have to be on the show to rate. And we'll see how we do at the end of all of this and see which ones we can agree were the best of the best and which ones we didn't. So I've got a ranking of 1 to 10. And, a 9 to 10, that's some good stuff, man. That's just like, oh, that hits the spot. Then there was then 7 to 8, which is we had a good time. And think of this as how you would think of the film for your rating. Then 5 to 6, meh, is okay. Then 3 to 4, no, sir, I don't like it. And then finally, 1 to 2, get it away! So we'll go ahead and get started. Our first month was a kind of a second, we called it Holiday Films Second Look, which kind of allowed us to do our year-end review. I don't really feel like rating our year-end review. But Tammy started us off with the Grinch, the animated Grinch. There's the little booger. I'm just going to temporarily place him in meh at the moment.
The animated Grinch is still a vague category.
The newer
it's Illumination, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. The one with Benedict Cumberbatch, Mr. Penguin himself as the Grinch.
Mr. Penguin.
So I will start with my rating of it, just to show us how it's going. And I will rate it as a 5 because I thought it was all right. But so it's a good place right now. All right. And Jake, how would you rate the animated Grinch?
I think it's a decent adaptation that could have been and should have been better. But so far, that seems to be Illumination's track record for Dr. Seuss. I'd probably give it a high 6, but I think ultimately I'd give it a 6.
All right. So, Tammy, what would you give the Grinch on a score of 1 to 10?
7.
7?
Okay.
Not 67.
Uh,
All right. And Dave?
I would say a high 7.
All right. And 7 equals that, divided by 4. All right. So that gives the Grinch a score of 6.25. And in all fairness, why don't we just do it as it should be? If it's above a 0.5, then we'll round up. If it's below a 0.5, we'll
Unfortunately, they were trying to keep that Grinch rather family friendly.
Well, yeah. There's another one that can help for those. It's called the mean one. All right. So that's how it works, essentially. So actually, that was a good place for him. It was all right. Not bad, not great. Just, it's all right. So next up, Tammy struck again with The Nightmare Before Christmas. There's old Jack there. He probably won't stay there, but let's go ahead and rank them. You know what? I have a hard time with this one. For some reason, I guess maybe it's fatigue from it. So I give it a 7. It's a good film, but for me, for instance, I did not feel like watching it this year at all. But I did apparently at this time. So, what about you, Jake?
Well, I mean, Nightmare Before Christmas is a classic. It does breeze by so fast that you're kind of like, that's it. So I do feel almost cheated watching it nowadays because I feel like it's so short. But I think I would give that one. It's right on the border between 8 and 9, so I'm going to be generous and say 9.
All right. How about you, Tammy? How would you rank that one?
Well, I know the theme was at the time, and that was like a revisited thing. It was not one of my favorites. I've come to like it a little bit better, so I'll go with a 6.
All right. And Dave, finish us off.
I'm going to give it a 10.
A 10. Ooh.
I actually enjoy this movie. It doesn't
do some actual math in here,
so I don't feel cheated.
Well, it actually comes out even. So
I would rather like a sequel to it than an extension of it.
Well, this one moves up to an 8, so we definitely had a good time with that, and I can agree with that. Actually, I think that's a good, solid place to be. An 8, I could agree with. All right, now the next one, which again, second look, so definitely ones. As I agree with Tammy on this one, is the other 3 were the Grinch was kind of like because we couldn't finish her off at the end of the year. Because Christmas was on an awkward date. I think it was Christmas Eve when we were doing that last show or something like that. So I picked Holiday Inn because it's definitely, controversial, to say the least. Our Bing Crosby, Fred Astaire masterwork.
Only if you really think about it.
So, Dave, why don't you start us off on a ranking of 1 to 10? How did you like Holiday Inn to your?
I'm going to give it maybe a 6.
A 6? All right. How about you, Tammy?
I'm so used to White Christmas. So
An 8.
An 8. All right. It was the first appearance of the song White Christmas. Won at the Oscar. Jake. There's that Lincoln's birthday part. That's the big issue for that one.
The song was all right, but although it had some issues, but there were issues with that scene.
not at the time.
That one's kind of tricky for me, but I'm going to go with a 6, I think.
You know what? I think I'll also give it a 6. I liked it better when I watched it that time than I had in the past. I was bored in the past. And so 6.5. So it gets upgraded to a 7. So we had a good time with it. Poor Grinch on his lonesome down there in the meh. Well, maybe this one will change
He won't be lonely long.
So we are looking. Jacob decided to pick the Jim Carrey Christmas Carol.
Was that me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, again, keep in mind second chances.
Okay.
So these are, by definition, these are all films that were kind of iffy with us on the first place. I'm gonna give it a 4. I didn't care for it actually. I mean, I'm not gonna say I didn't. I thought it was horrible, which is why I gave it a 4. Strong 4. How
No,
about you,
sir.
Jake? How about you, Jake? What are your thoughts on it?
Well, I don't dislike the movie. It's deeply flawed, and they leaned way too hard into the 3D aspect of it. But it's okay. I'll give it a 5.
A 5.
A solid 5, but a 5.
All right, Tammy.
I'll go with a 6 because it's okay. You know, it's not one of my favorites for Christmas or favorite Grinch, but it's okay.
So does that mean, Dave, you're going to give it a 7 because 4,
No,
5, 6?
I'm going to give it a 0. Crap.
You can't give it a 0 because you did watch it. So 1 to 10, how would you rank this?
I said 0.
Well, I have to give this
crap.
a minimum of 1. So
Fine, -1.
so Dave ranks it as get it away.
Yes.
All right. So
We'll never watch again.
with those rankings combined, it takes it down to no, sir. I don't like it.
Oh, so the Grinch is still lonely for now.
It is. All right. So February was a birthday month where we started instituting the policy of everybody gets 2 for their birthdays. So it was a birthday month for Tammy and Jake. So it's going to be basically divided between Tammy and Jake.
And we had 2 dark thrillers and 2 bowling movies.
So we're going to start with Intensity, the Dean Koontz film. So Dave, how do you rank Intensity 1 to 10?
I'm actually going to rank that pretty high. I'm going to rank it 10. I actually think out of all the stuff that I've seen that Dean Koontz stuff has actually been put to, that's pretty high.
All right. Tammy?
I go with a 10 on that. It's one of my favorites.
All right. Jake? Jacob?
Oh, okay. I'm going to say I'm having trouble remembering much about it, except that I enjoyed my boy John C. McGinley in it. So I'll go with 7, I guess. I had a good time, I think.
It was okay for me. I'll give it a 6.
Okay.
All right. Divide that by 4. And 8.25. So we all had a good time with that one. All right. Next up is Kingpin. Jake's first bowling choice. So,
Yeah.
what? Actually, I guess I'll start with me on this one. Kingpin's a decent enough comedy. I guess I could say I had a good time. I'll give it a 7. Low 7, but 7. All right, Jake, your thoughts on Kingpin?
Well, it was a lot better than I remembered. And for a Farrelly Brothers movie, it's pretty decent. But it is a Farrelly Brothers movie, so by definition, I can't give it a top score. I'll go with a 7.
All right. And how about you, Tammy?
It was fun. I'll go with a 7.
Okay. And you, Dave?
I'm going to give it a 4.
Pushing that score down.
Always the contrarian.
Don't worry. I'll probably be the contrarian on the next one. All right. 6.25. So, hey, the Grinch has company.
All right.
It was okay. So the next one was Tammy's, which was Kiss the Girls. Kiss the Girls. Oh. Okay, not that one. But,
Slightly different.
so, Tammy, what did you rank Kiss the Girls?
9.
All right. And Dave?
Because I think the earlier version of the Patterson films that would do the novels, I would say probably a good stiff 9.
Okay. Boom. Jake?
So no one else is hearing this. Whatever. Yeah. So, okay. Kiss the Girls is pretty good. I enjoy it. I'll give it a. It's right on the border between 7 and 8. I guess I'll be generous and give it an 8.
All right. Now it's time for me to be contrarian. I'm going to give it a 4. I'll admit I was bored by it.
Okay.
7.5 still pushes it up to an 8.
Okay.
And last but not least, the Big Lebowski.
The dude abides.
I've always considered this one to feel overrated for me. I never understood why people love this so much. But I still had a decent time watching it, and I can't say it was meh. So I'll give it a 7.
Okay.
And Jake?
Well, I'm extremely selective in what I will give a 10 to, and the Coens have several I will give 10s to. This is not one of those, but it is one of their classic films, and it's absolutely a solid 9.
All right. Tammy?
It was fun. I guess I'll go with a 6.
Okay. Dave?
I think I'm actually going to go with you, Brandon, and give it a 7, a solid 7. It's got a bunch of decent one-liners, at least, and I enjoy the dude just a little bit.
Well, it's enough for the dude to march right up beyond the Grinch and Kingpin, and right over here with some very interesting company. So. With a 7.25. So March actually did have a theme.
Okay.
It was March Madness, so it was a sports theme.
Mm-hmm.
Now I stopped writing down who contributed films after this point, so y'all might have to remind me.
I feel like it was Dave, Tammy, you, and me, if I'm remembering correctly.
Okay. Oh yeah. I recognize my handiwork on that one. Okay.
Yes, that is definitely your handiwork.
So remember the Titans. So Dave, what do you rank Remember the Titans?
Even though it is sad, I'm going to give it a 10.
Mm-hmm. Tammy, how do you rank Remember the Titans?
7.
7. Jake?
It's a pretty solid film. I give it a 7.
I don't like football. Period. I have my views. Most people who know me know my views. But it was a good film. I'm not going to discount that. So I will give it a 7.
All right.
And that will take it to
I'm right there with you where I don't really like football. In fact, Tammy's the one that will be shouting in the background.
It's a 7.75. So technically it's up to an 8.
Okay.
But it's still in the we had a good time
Okay.
ranking. So speaking of having a good time, The Blind Side.
Okay.
I am so conflicted on this film.
Yeah.
Because for one, it is well executed. For two, it's well acted. For three, it holds up like milk left in the sun for 5 weeks. And because of that, it makes me mad because I know the real story behind it. So I can't really say that I liked it, but I can't really say that it's a bad film either. So I'm going to give it a 5. It's just going to sit at a 5.
Okay.
All right. How about you, Jake?
I was also going to say it's aged like milk. So, it's, I guess we're great minds and all that. It is very well made, and it's very slick production, great acting. I still think that Bullock could have won for a more appropriate Oscar, but that's.
What about Steve?
Wasn't this the same year as that one?
One best actress and worst actress.
Yes, it's great. But I agree with you. It's so problematic that it's really hard to say you really enjoy it. I would say we had a good time insofar as we had a very spirited discussion, but I give it a 6, I guess.
Okay. So, Tammy.
I really liked the movie. I didn't, when the first few times I watched it and got into it, I didn't know all the background on it, So, like you said, I'm a little bit conflicted because I do know all the background on it, but I still really like the movie itself, So I guess I'll go with the
You
7.
like the fantasy.
Yeah, and if it makes it feel any better, if we had been rating this the year it came out,
oh yeah,
I would have been giving it like probably an 8.
Yeah,
it was so well done, and it felt like such a great story. But then, well.
Well, I think we said in the discussion, if you divorce it from reality, if you don't say this is a true story and you just look at it as a movie, it's a pretty good inspirational sports movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And milk actually tastes pretty good when it's fresh out. Right? How about you, Dave?
I'm going to describe this as Bilbo Baggins described himself as too much butter spread over too much bread. And give it a 3.
Oh my. All right, let's see how this
I don't
holds
like
up.
sport movies myself, so if I give it a high ranking, it's pretty good, maybe.
Well, this one definitely has company with the Grinch and Kingpin at a 5. All right, now one I know you all are going to love. It's going to be a perfect 10, I know it. Slam Dunk, Ernest. So, Dave, why did you rank Slam Dunk, Ernest?
I'll give it a 5.
All right, Tammy, how did you like Slam Dunk, Ernest?
Oh, I don't remember if I watched that one.
Okay, well, we can leave you out of this one. How about you, Jake? I know you've seen it before.
Yeah, and I will say, thankfully, this viewing was not as mind-numbingly, soul-crushingly, depressingly upsetting as my first viewing was. I guess because I set the bar lower. This is an embarrassingly awful Giovanni movie, but it is entertaining in its own way. And I was able to find more out of it this time. So I guess I'll be generous and give it a 3.
You know, if if you were to catch me on this back when I first watched this back in Emporia, and I found it in the $5 bin and at Walmart, and I was like, "Ooh, an Ernest movie!"
You overpaid.
And then it's one of the few films that I had ejected from my collection. And that was before I was thinning my collection. But it was more watchable this time. And because it's in a set that has several other Ernest films in it, I don't feel like I need to eject it from the collection. So I think I'll agree with Jake and give it a 3.
Oh, actually, no. Now I do remember it. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I'll go with like 4.
All right. High praise. So 3.75 will get it to a 4. So it's right there with the animated Christmas Carol.
Woo.
Good company.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now we're doing Jake's pick for that time. Battle of the Sexes.
Okay.
And I'm going to, let's see. And Jake, why don't you remind everybody what that was about? Because I need to take a quick break.
Okay. Boys and girls, Battle of the Sexes was about the show match in the 70s between Billie Jean King and Bobby, what's his face? I'm drawing a blank. I don't
That
know.
was a tennis match, right?
It was a tennis match, yes, and starred Emma Stone and Steve
Tennis
Carell. Good times. And I guess we are waiting for Brandon to take the rankings, I'm
I
guessing.
suppose we
So,
can start going around
yeah.
the rankings.
What was
Let's
that?
go with
There we go.
There
Sorry
we go.
about that. I had to take a moment, so I was using him to delay for time.
Okay. Well, I delayed for a few minutes.
But yeah.
All right, rankings.
So I give this one a 7 out of 10. It was a good movie. Then how about you, Jake?
I'll give it an 8. It's kind of a low 8, but it is a good solid film.
All right. You, Tammy?
I'll give it a 5.
And you, Dave?
I'm gonna give it a 4.
All right.
It bored me.
Well, that is egregious offense. One that will put it right next to The Blind Side at a 6.
Oh my.
Meh. It was okay. So, well, we moved from March Madness to Antique April. Jake's attempt to do some older movies that kind of backfired because he only set it back 50 years.
Yeah.
And probably just made you feel like an antique at the end of it.
We had at least one from the 30s.
So we'll start, and I think I'll just we'll do a brief summary about what the film was about. Not quite as long as Battle of the Sexes was, but just enough to say, if
Yeah.
you were the one who introduced it, for you to just do a brief synopsis.
Yeah.
So I started us off with Sleeper, which is a Woody Allen movie about him being trapped in the future after a botched medical visit, and how he finds love in a future time, does crime in a future time. So let's start with the rankings. So Dave, how would you rank Sleeper?
I'm actually gonna give this a 7.
It was definitely his old, what do they call it? Those slapstick comedies he used to do. Very different from the modern Woody Allen.
Well, also is his only sci-fi.
Yes.
Well, and it's way before his controversies.
Though not the only flying chair that he was in.
Yeah.
Because he was in one in a Midsummer Night's Sex comedy. So, Tammy, how did you rank Sleeper?
It was okay. I'll go with a 5.
Okay. So, Jake, how did you rank Sleeper?
It was a sleeper hit. No, it was one of his solid efforts. I definitely ascribe to the notion that a bad Woody Allen film is still a damn good film in most cases, and so a good Woody Allen film is even better. I would give this one probably an 8.
All right. Though I can't really, in good conscience, give it like that's the good stuff, like it's the best of the best. It's still one of my favorite Woody Allen movies to come back to. It's just enjoyable as a watch.
Mhm.
So I will give that one an 8.
Okay.
And we will divide that. And we get a solid 7. So it's
Oh.
right up there with,
Nice.
it has some good prestigious company there. All right. So next up on our list, I remember who picked that one. Oh, well, it looks like Incubus did not get its way up on here.
Oh.
So we're just going to have to, the file size might not have fit up on here.
Okay.
So we're just going to have to rank it and pretend. So, Dave, tell us just briefly what Incubus was about.
Incubus was a 1960s film that was done specifically and straight in Esperanza. And it was a weird little film because it is an out of print movie, and I know that they're working on like gathering some negatives or whatnot in the background, but it stars a very young William Shatner, probably around the time that he did White Comanche, which is a controversial film in its own. But it is a film, so let's rank it.
All right. So let's see here. Last one we did was Sleeper. So, all right. So I'll start us off this time. Incubus was an interesting experiment, to be sure. I'll give it a 6. I wouldn't consider it good, but it was okay. How about you, Jake?
That was that Shatner one, right?
Yep.
Honestly, I barely remember it. I just remember it was interesting and weird, but it didn't really grab me. So I guess I can't really give it any higher than a 6, but I'm not even sure I should do that. I'm going to go with 5 because I really barely remember it.
Tammy.
I don't think I really got into it. I'll do a 4.
Okay.
I'm gonna be
Dave.
nice. I'm gonna be nice and give it a 7, just because of its rarity.
Well, that puts it up to a 6, which would leave it right here with the Grinch. So, not in huge company. All right. So, Tammy, tell us, what's King Kong about?
A big ape.
All right. I think we can go with that. So, with that being said, Dave, how would you rank the original King Kong?
The original King Kong, I would rank it a 10.
Right.
That one, I always remember the story of my grandfather actually going and seeing Gunga Din and King Kong at the drive-in, and he thought of it in fond memory. And I do think with its claymation efforts, it was definitely years ahead of its time.
All right. So next up, I guess, is Tammy.
I'm gonna also rate it a 10 because it's a classic.
Okay. And Jacob?
King Kong, definitely a classic film. I usually don't rate those old films super highly when it comes to personal interest. So I guess I'd probably go with a weak 8.
Okay. I will also give it an 8. I think that it has a lot to it where I look at it as a film that's a necessity, especially if you're a filmmaker.
Oh, yeah.
Though all times at it that I'm just like, it's kind of slow for me. I can't give it like the best of the best, but it is a really solid film.
If we were doing an importance ranking, it would absolutely be high on the list. But
and it's our first that's some good stuff.
Okay. Good stuff. What was the ultimate score?
That was a 9.
Oh, wow. Nice.
So, Jake, what was Angels with Dirty Faces about?
Angels with Dirty Faces is an old James Cagney film where he had a bunch of young hooligans that he takes under his wing and kind of tries to turn them around a little bit. And it also is notable as the inspiration for the movies within the movies of the Home Alone series. Good times.
Well, I guess I'll start us off. I was not on for that show because of very depressing matters, which also kept me from the next week's show. But I did watch it because I was highly interested in it.
Mm-hmm.
But I was also kind of bored. So I will give it a 5. All right, Jake.
Well, I wasn't bored. It wasn't quite as awesome as I hoped it would be, but it definitely, I thought it was interesting. I'll give it a 7.
All right. And what about you, Tammy?
It was interesting, but I'll give it a 5.
A 5. All right. And you, Dave?
I'm going to give it an 8 because I'm used to James Cagney films. I know he was kind of considered a communist at one point in time, but what a lot of gangster types during the 30s, 40s, and I think 50s. And this one wasn't bad. I think because of the fact that he was trying to turn his life around, and unfortunately, he just, fell victim of circumstances. So.
Well, we ended it with one that I picked called Peeping Tom, though I wasn't there for it, again, because of the same circumstances. That would also keep me from the next week. But I will say that it is a classic when it comes to slasher films. It is probably one of the first slashers, a proto-slashers, I could say. Right there along with Psycho, responsible for how things were. And I'm really sad that I missed that one because I'm sure Dustin actually had a lot of cool stuff to say about it because he was studying that one and Psycho. But it's about a guy who films people as he kills them and has a big drill on his camera, which he kills them with. So, very deadly close.
Indeed.
So, because of its importance, and how it was done. But the fact that I had a good time, but it wasn't a great time, I'm going to give it a 7. How about you, Jake?
Uh, it was a very interesting movie. Well done. I didn't love it, but I think I could give it a 7.
Okay. How about you, Tammy? Tammy?
We can't hear you, Tammy. You're on mute.
Oh, sorry. It was pretty good. I'll go with a 7.
Okay. And finally, you, Dave.
This movie made me mad, partially because it took me forever to get a copy. But that being said, and this was before it came out on the Blu-ray of Criterion. I didn't.
It just went back into print this past year.
It was out of print as frickin' A for the longest time, and then I bid on it on eBay for $50, and that's what I got it for. Which was cheap compared to what it was going for. It was going for $300 at one point in time.
Oh my goodness! No, I didn't pay for that.
It's
no.
a lot.
Oh,
I
wow.
didn't either. I think I paid 20.
I even saw it in like the $500 range at one point in time. So that was a pretty penny. So when
Thanks
I got
for
it for
Criterion.
50 at the time, I was thinking I sweated a bullet, but ranking it because of its place in history and because of its band notoriousness, because it was on the UK ban list at one point in time. You know, the video nasties, the ones that, you know, the pink
the
flamingos of the British society actually flouted their noses at. I would give it a very high 8.
All right.
Okay.
And that takes this one up to a good time, which I would say is pretty
All right.
even more. That was a good time. So our next month was Strange May. Our first week had to be canceled. But don't worry, the film came back, and we'll cut to that a little bit later. But one that did not come back to our photo gallery down there because the picture did not load was Jake's pick, Poor Things. So
the photo didn't work for that one, huh?
Nope. My guess is it was a few pixels too big or something like that.
Okay.
They have to be like an exact size, and I didn't have time to check it if every single one of them loaded.
All right.
But brief description.
Huh. Oh, sorry. So Poor Things, the Yorgos Lanthimos film where once again we have Emma Stone as Bella, a woman who is mother and daughter in one because a pregnant woman tries to kill herself by drowning herself. She's found by a Dr. Frankenstein type character played by Willem Dafoe, who naturally, because it's what you do, puts the infant's brain in the mother's body and raises her as his own. And it is a weird as shit movie. And I think Lanthimos has probably not made a better one yet.
Well, I guess we're going to start with you, Dave. What did you rank Poor Things?
I'm going to rate this
10. All right. How about you, Tammy?
I thought this was really unique and weird and everything all at once. So I'm going to go with an 8.
All right.
Okay.
And you, Jake?
Yeah, Lanthimos has not yet earned the ability to get a 10 from me. I still haven't fully forgiven him for Dogtooth, but I will give him a 9 for this one. It is a solid 9.
You know what? I really like this film. I can't disagree with that. I'll give it a 9 as well. And we can just picture it right there with King Kong, but we can't see it. It's so great. It's invisible.
Just think how much better this would look if you had all of them loaded.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. But we can't have them all.
We can't?
No, we can't.
Oh.
Oh wait, let me see if I can do this. Let me see. Maybe I can. Let's go and see. Pictures. Okay, movies galore. Which 2 were we missing again? Well, I know one of them.
Incubus and Forrest.
Let's see here.
And I don't know if there are any others missing later. I don't think there are.
Oh, that's because they're not there. Oh, okay, well, that would also be the reason.
Well, there you go.
So let's do that real quick. I can fix that relatively quickly.
I can fix it. We need to do Wreck-It Ralph one of these days. That'll be
I haven't even seen those.
What's that?
I haven't even seen those.
I have not seen the second one, but the first one's a classic. Yeah.
I have to because there's the band Incubus, and there's several other movies called Incubus.
I bet, and I bet you at least half of them were pornos.
Well, no, there is a couple of different titled Incubus movies. There's Incubus, and then there's another Incubus movie that I think
I remember Incubus was
Vinegar Syndrome actually has.
Yeah.
Then Poor Things.
Uh-huh.
So if we don't run into one, I can get it downloaded right away. But for some reason, it does not like to load ones that pixels are not like perfect. Oh, wait. No, wrong one. Not save. Poor Things. And that, yes. And that one gets boom right up there. All right. What up the butt? All right, so next up on our list was Strange May. Tammy introduced us. Well, not really introduced us, but brought up Bedknobs and Broomsticks. So, Tammy, can you tell us briefly what that movie is about?
It's I guess you want to call it a cute movie, you know.
It's a musical about a group of orphans that end up in the care of a
wannabe witch.
Not an apprentice witch.
Yes.
A witch. So
here's one.
I like this one. It's a great film. It's enjoyable. I don't consider it a masterpiece, but it is a very nice watch. I give it a 7. How about you, Jake?
It's a fun one. I wasn't blown away by it. And I also didn't think it was nearly as weird as some of the others from the month, but
oh yeah,
there were a couple of high bars set there. So, but it definitely was. I'm kind of on the border between 6 and 7. I liked it well enough, but I didn't love it, so I guess I'll go 6.
All right. How about you, Timmy?
I'll go with 8. It's a lot of fun.
And you, Dave?
I'm going to go with 10. There is no movie ever that has ever shown a whole entire army of Brits and Scots and knights in shining armor against Germany. And to me, that's like a fu to the the German Reich. So this movie plays high in my list of Disney movies. A very high 10.
So we definitely had a good time, as it would be said. So the next one on the list was mine, and as Jake said, I think that the bars were definitely set high with his and my film. I would like to think Dave Made a Maze was pretty high on the list. And Dave, well, I don't know what you were doing at the time, but I guess you decided to make a maze out of cardboard and end up trapping all of us in it. We had to fight our way out. Definitely one I was glad to revisit, though. So speaking of, Dave, what did you think of the maze you built?
You know what? I actually give it a lot of creativity because at first I wasn't sure because of the way the damn thing looked on the outside, and I knew it was independent. But once the film got started and the people started showing up inside the maze, I had a lot of fun with it, and I think they had a lot of fun with it too. There was so many things that they were able to do with a very shoestring budget.
And a lot of cardboard.
And it was a lot of hard work, I think, at the end of the day too. So I'm going to give it a 10.
High five. How about you, Tammy? What did you think of Dave Made a Maze?
I thought it was pretty fun, and like David said, I think they worked really hard on it. So, but I'll go with a 7.
All right, good ranking. How about you, Jake? How did you like Dave Made a Maze?
I was absolutely thrilled to see a live action version of the Ichijo Festival. I thought that was hilarious. I thought it was a very interesting and creative movie. I guess I could give it I don't think it'd be a strong 8, but I think I could give it an 8.
All right, and I'm going to give it an 8 myself. I can't give it a high 10 because it's not like the best movie ever, but I love the film, and it's very enjoyable for me. And I love the creativity. And like I say, as the movie, as the girl in the movie has said, high five. So definitely up there with an 8 ranking. So we managed to make it out of Strange May. We returned briefly, but we instead go into June, where we celebrated Dave and my birthdays. And we started with Slaughterhouse. Wait, no, wrong one. Slaughterhouse 5.
I still have to watch that.
Oh, it's great. It's great. It's on Disney Plus, which also entertains the heck out of me. But tell us, what is Slaughterhouse 5 about, Dave?
Slaughterhouse is a very slow coming of age movie, and I remember reading the book, but I think it's based on a Kurt Vonnegut novel, but it's a science fiction / present day / war movie about a man who's dealing with life's critical moments, but also flashbacking to when he was in the war and kind of like when he actually thinks about the bad. He thinks about a future with a porn star. So,
Hey,
But-
nothing wrong with that. So, well, I'll start us off with the rankings. I thought it was an interesting film. It was very intriguing. I would have to say about the same as Jake had said about the Bedknobs and Broomsticks. It's one that I liked, but I'm not sure that I would say was great because of the structure. And I know it was meant to be confusing, but that bothers me. That's why I also don't like Memento.
Huh.
Matter of fact, it's a good thing that's not on this list. I probably would have ranked that much lower.
We need to cover that one day.
But I give it a strong 6, though, because I felt like it was a good film, just not great film for me. How about you, Jake?
Honestly, I have trouble remembering much about the movie. I remember liking it and thinking it was an interesting one and thinking I really, really need to read the book. But I really don't remember much about it. I'm kind of on the board. I feel like it could be a 7, but I'm on the border because I have trouble remembering. So I might have to go with 6.
All right. So, Tammy.
I think I have to go with a 6 because I don't know. It just, the back and forth and this and that and everything with it. I don't know. It just wasn't really my thing.
Oh, the mark of the beast already this early on.
she does not like war films to begin with, so I knew it was going to be a low ranking number with her.
So, what
I'm
about
gonna-
you, Dave?
Even though I like the film and I enjoy it, it's not exactly a straight love. I'm going to give it an 8 because of its place in film history, and it's a weird one, So,
And it's out of print. So that takes it up to a 7, 6.5 rounds, barely, but rounds up to a 7.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 6.5. I mean, 0.5 and up rounds up. So.
Mhm.
All right. So mine that I know is going to be controversial because it was very controversial at the time that we're discussing it. My 2 were actually more on a theme, and it's probably going to be that was probably the last year I'm going to be dedicating my birthdays to my father's memory because I felt like I had a very good goodbye to Europe to him when I dumped his ashes on Jim Morrison's grave. But these were apt for him. And we started with, there were 2 radio themed ones. And this one we started with Talk Radio, which is a film about a shock jock
Mhm.
and his last night on the airwaves. The intensity in this thing definitely ramped up throughout the movie until it got to its climactic end. So, Dave, what did you think of Talk Radio?
it bored me to tears, except for the ending. And so I'll give it a 2.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
All right, Tammy.
I don't think I really got into it either. Sorry.
That's all right.
So I'll be nice and give it a 4.
All right. How about you, Jake?
I do not consider the film boring. I think it is a very effective psychological thriller in a sense. It is very interesting. Great performance from Eric Bogosian. I'd probably give it a weak 8.
This one actually does stick with me very heavily because of its relationship with my father. It is flawed deeply in a lot of ways. And the things that he liked about it are even more flawed. But because of that and because of the intensity and the strength of the performance, I've got to give it an 8 myself.
Okay.
All right. So divide that by... Okay, that's not right. Okay, we had a 2 plus a 4 plus an 8 plus an 8. And then we divide that by 4. Okay. All right, so that rounds it up to a 6. It's about the same mix, I guess, that we got for Slaughterhouse. Yeah, because it got a 5.5. 2 8s and 2 4s, 22.
Well, 6 is the line down from there.
Oh, sorry, 6, never mind. Almost got up to there.
Huh.
Hey, right there with Incubus.
Yeah, yeah.
Should be below it, but oh well.
Well, this is why it's a group effort, because then we've got the group consensus.
I get it.
Mhm.
I'll still say it.
So Dave's second pick was kind of a film called Down a Dark Hallway. And Dave, tell us what this film was about.
Well, I had actually read the book to this one. So when I found out that there was a movie about it, I had to watch it, and then I brought it to your guys' attention. And it's about a teenage girl who is flung into to this world of because she's got no other choice. She's gotten in way too much trouble at all the different schools that she's gone to, and she winds up at an academy that is specifically deals with cultivating musicians and artists. And this school is not exactly on the up and up.
Okay. Well, I guess we will start with me this time. Well, I didn't dislike the film, but I felt confused and sometimes lost my attention at times. So I'll be nice. I'll give it a 6. Because I like haunted house stuff, so probably my memory is a little bit off on it, so I'll give it a little higher than I would have ranked it. How about you, Jake?
Honestly, I'd forgotten all about this one, and it took Dave his little intro to jog my memory.
That's why I'm doing them.
It did. I did rather like the film. I seem to remember thinking it could have been better, but I also seem to remember thinking I liked it a lot more than I thought I was going to. So I'll give it a 7.
All right. How about you, Tammy?
I think the same thing. I think I ended up liking it more than I thought I was going to do. And I like haunted things, so I'll go with a 7.
All right, Dave?
I'll go with a 7 too, because they changed some of the who they were trying to make the children out to be in the end, because I think they were trying to use more present day characters, but at the end of the day, I wish it had been a little bit better, but I did enjoy the headmistress of the school and the place in which it was filmed, the house that was used. I thought it was interesting.
So that one gets right up there with Slaughterhouse 5 at a 7. So we ended the month with my other pick, which was Pump Up the Volume, which we have our teen Harry Hardon and his pirate radio station as he bucks the system and manages to defeat an evil principal in her plan to basically exorcise all of the kids that just don't fit in at her school. I guess we will start with you, Dave. How did you rank Pump Up the Volume?
I'm gonna give it a solid 8. I like Christian Slater a lot better than I liked the other guy doing the radio thing. Partially because he had a sweet ass radio setup. I mean, when I was a kid, I got into radio and things of that nature. And of course, I never had a setup like he did, but I was definitely on the tail end of the radio fanatica, because I got into Duffy's Tavern and I Love a Mystery and The Lone Ranger and things of that nature. And talk radio, well, that was huge in like the late 70s, the early 80s, and maybe a little bit into the 90s, because I remember radio personalities like Man Cow, or even local ones like Bob and Brian, and people like that, and Howard Stern. Howard Stern was the radio dude, the radio personality that I remember.
So. We'll have to cover Private Parts one of these days.
Oh, that's a great movie.
So, how about you, Tammy? How would you have ranked Pump Up the Volume?
I thought it was fun. It was, his setup was something else. Yeah. I'll go with a 7.
All right. How about you, Jake?
I thought it was a pretty enjoyable film. I think I could go with a 7 for that one.
And there were boobs in the film.
Yeah.
That's what I concentrated on as a very young child. But no, in all fairness, this one's probably one of my favorite films that I remember with my father. Which is kind of funny because he liked talk radio more and I liked this one more. So I will give that one actually a 9.
Okay.
And then we will divide that. And that takes it to an 8. Got some good company up there. Right up there with Dave Made a Maze. So we briefly returned to Strange May to kind of hit one that we had to leave behind, which was the Hansel and Gretel and Opera fantasy. So Dave, briefly, tell us what that was about.
Well, I know this has a lot of history of giving people nightmares because of, how dark this tale is, even as a version of the Hansel and Gretel tale. And it's kind of a musical, but it's on the level of like Rankin Bass type, but it's darker, and it's definitely set in a world that's just a little bit off. So I like it. So I'm gonna rank it. I'm gonna rank it an 8. Very high 8.
Where we started? Oh, well, we started with me last. Okay. No, it was Dave. Okay. Well, I will rank it a. Well, actually, I've seen several of these, and this one, I'll admit, maybe it was the copy I watched, but it definitely was having a hard time holding my attention. I am glad I watched it once, but I probably won't ever watch it again. So I'll give it a 3. How about you, Jake?
Well, I seem to recall as well that I watched this on a very poor quality rip, and I'd be willing to give it another go one day if I could see a good quality one. But I agree, whatever version, edition, whatever I watched was it was hard to get into it. What I could tell, the movie seemed intriguing, but I'll be generous and give it a 5, but I don't think I can go any higher on that viewing.
And you, Tammy?
I don't think it was something that I totally got into either. I'll go with a 5.
All right. Divide that by that. All right. Well, it stays where it is.
All right.
Right there with Talk Radio and Incubus. All right. So we went to war in July.
Yeah.
As we had the theme, This Means War. Month dedicated to war films, to Tammy's delight, I was sure. So we start off with my film that I recommended, Barefoot Jen, which was a film that was very enlightening and very positive. Something that people got a good laugh and comedic response from.
Definitely not.
And this is, of course, the story of a child that was actually taken from a true story series of a child who actually survived the bombing of Hiroshima, which was a very bad day. And they make sure that you understand that it was a very bad day. Horrors of war, indeed.
Their fault.
So Dave, how would you rank Barefoot Gen?
Well, I'm sure the director and the storyteller behind it actually embellished a lot of the story, but there was a lot of sadness that went on in this movie. God damn.
Oh, yeah.
It lost most of his family like within the first 30 minutes.
Yeah, some of the story was embellished, but pretty much all of the horrors of war stuff was actually taken from real accounts.
It was definitely graphic. I'll give you that much, and I'm sure it was exactly like that, when it happened. And yes, it was probably a very horrifying experience. I would not wish that on anybody, but they started a fight. They picked one. I guess that's the result. So.
Well, speaking of results, what's your ranking?
I would have to give it a very solid 8.
All right. How about you, Tammy?
Was this the animated one?
Yes. Yeah.
Considering I'm not really into war things or animation, I still found it interesting, so I'll go with a 6.
All right. That's a good ranking for considering those things. So thanks. How about you, Jake?
Well, I'm not really sure the phrase "we had a good time" could be applied to this movie, but it was very well made for the most part, and it definitely was effective. And I'll probably give it a weak 8, but I think I could give it an 8.
For me, it's a debatable thing because I don't like manipulation as a total.
Yeah.
And it's definitely manipulative, much like Grave of the Fireflies. But unlike Grave of the Fireflies, this one said straight out what it was that was manipulating. So I will give it an edge over that. Well, a big edge over that because I don't like Grave of the Fireflies. But I will give it an 8. Now let's see how that fared. Oh, all right. Well, it got pushed up to 8. All right. We got some strong ones there. All right. So our wartime continues. And Dave, I don't remember this one, so you're going to have to give us a basic summary of The Longest Day.
Okay, well, The Longest Day is, well, it was a film that my father always watched with me, along with like The Dirty Dozen and a few other various films over time that dealt with war. And this one, it may be very staccato because it does show things that happened with the Americans, and then what happened with the British, and it basically deals with everything that leads up to the storming of Normandy Beach, which there were at least 7 different beaches that everyone had to land on, and not everyone landed exactly where they were supposed to. And because of them actually flying blind, basically, most of them did not end up where they expected to, and a lot of them ended up in the line of fire. But it was interesting to see some of these characters show up. A very young Sean Connery showed up in there, but. Yeah, that's pretty much it. World War II.
Well, okay. Well, I start off the rankings on this one, and I will say my enjoyability of it was a 6, but I feel like it deserves a 7 because of importance level and the fact that it is a really well done film. So I'll give it a 7. How about you, Jake?
I think I can agree with that. Like, it's a well done movie. It's very much a product of its time. It's not the kind of movie that I would consider a great war movie, but I can definitely see that it was important and worth watching. And 7 works for me.
Okay. How about you, Tammy?
4.
War movie. There we go. So that okay. 7.
I didn't rank it.
Oh, wait,
yet.
sorry, and you, Dave. I was wondering why I was missing one.
I'm gonna rank it a 9, partially because of the various scenes that my dad would point out every time we'd watch it. The part where they were supposed to actually click their guns or click their clickers, and they sounded like the click of the German guns. That was something that was always mentioned. And then, of course, that dude that flew down in the St. Mary Gleason and got hung on the church. Well, apparently they still have a dummy sitting up there on that church. So to me, it's got historical value. So I'm going to give it that.
Well, that takes it up to a 7 with the rest of those lovely 7 ones. And it's right now next to Slaughterhouse-Five. They go well together. Well, Jake, tell us about this happy-go-lucky film called The Deer Hunter.
Oh yeah, definitely. I should have mentioned this to Brittany earlier as a pick me up for her.
Well, it's definitely a live action film.
Well, okay, so The Deer Hunter is Michael Cimino's depiction of life after war for a group of friends from a small town America who go off to Vietnam and are all changed by the experience. And it, of course, the final film of John Cazale, and you've got Robert De Niro, Christopher Walken, and Meryl Streep. Pretty solid cast there.
So, I guess we start with Dave. So what did you think of The Deer Hunter?
1 second. Okay. Well, I thought the wedding scenes were way too long.
True.
At the time, the thing that I remember is the game, the Russian roulette. And then I think Christopher Walken still playing the game. So that's what I remember about the film. And it was a slog, definitely a slog. So I'm going to be nice and give it a 5.
All right. How about you, Tammy?
I agree that the wedding scenes were way too much and everything. It's just I don't know. It was like okay. I'll go with a 5.
All right. How about you, Jake?
It's like we got a tough crowd. I will agree the movie's overlong. And it's kind of a strange one. It really is an odd movie in a lot of ways, but I do think it's obviously a very important and influential film, and I do think it is worth watching. I'm kind of on the fence myself because I do think it's overrated. I'm on the fence myself about exactly where I would put it. It's between a 7 and an 8. I'll probably edge toward 8, if only for the film's importance, but it's right on the edge.
So I will say the exact same thing I said for the longest, not yard, day.
Different movie.
Which I got about a 6 worth of enjoyment out of it, but I feel like I need to give it a 7 because of the importance and the skill from which the film was made. So that puts us at a 6. Oh, well, it gets to stay where it is. Right next to Hansel and Gretel. Where it deserves, I guess. All right, Tammy. What is The Hunt for Red October about?
Yes, this captain, played by Sean Connery, is defecting. Basically.
All right. Yep, and the world is watching as he takes a nuclear sub with him.
Yep.
So, I guess we will start out with, well, me actually. Oh, never mind. This one's always been a favorite for me, and I'm kind of glad that you brought the Cold War into it, because we could have sat there and been on World War II or Vietnam all throughout that, but having the Cold War in there, that was a great thing. I'm glad that you brought it in there, and I think it's a masterful film. I really like it. I will give it a strong 8. How about you, Jake?
Huh?
Jake.
I really like the movie too. I think it's a very enjoyable film. It's very well made. I still think it is kind of funny that you have all these Russians played by every nationality but Russia. But
I seem to remember you stating that you weren't sure about Alec Baldwin's placement as the main character.
Him as Jack Ryan.
Yeah,
He's a good Ryan. To me, I tend to think Harrison Ford because I really, really love Clear and Present Danger, and that kind of is how I visualize Ryan. But he's been played at this point by several different people, so
I think Harrison Ford made up for it in K-19, the Widowmaker.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, I really enjoy Hunt for Red October. I'm not sure I would give it a strong 8, but I could definitely give it an 8, I think.
All right. Hey, well, both of us together even out to an 8, right? So, how about you, Tammy? What's your ranking for Red October?
Well, you guys know I'm not really into horror movies, so it took me a little bit of thinking to pick one. But yeah, I like this one. It's it keeps you interested in everything, and I always liked John Connery to begin with. So even though it was one of my picks, I'm going to go with an 8.
All right. And how about you, Dave?
10, hands down.
Man, don't mind math off.
This was a great movie. Cat and Mouse came at its best.
We might have another one on the top line.
Yes, Dave knocks it right up there. Single-handedly, pretty much. So because 8.5 rounds up to 9. So yes.
All right.
So now we got 3 at the top here. That's some good stuff. All right. So the next month that we did was a Disney of my youth. My youth specifically. Disney live action movies from the 70s and 80s. So we start off with with one of Jake's picks, the Apple Dumpling Gang. Tell us what's that about, Jake?
Which, if I remember correctly, was the only one in here from my youth and was not part of yours.
Yeah, well.
Well, the Apple Dumpling Gang is technically the gang itself was this group of kids, but you've got these two bungling dinguses played by Don Knotts and Tim Conway, I believe, who basically get run out of every town they're in because they're the worst gangsters. Well, gangsters, you know what I mean. Yeah. Outlaws, there we go. The worst outlaws out around. And they find themselves getting wrapped up in this whole shenanigans involving these kids and these two various adults who are somehow tied to the kids. And
there's supposedly a treasure involved.
Right. I was going to say, and support and some sort of a treasure and inheritance, if I remember correctly, that this actual gang of outlaws is trying to get hold of. And it's just good, clean Disney family fun. Like, I think of it as like the prototypical Sunday afternoon kind of movie, you know?
So, Dave, how do you rank it?
Me?
Mm-hmm.
Oh. There's only one specific scene that I actually really entirely enjoyed, and that was the latter scene where they had to tiptoe around the sleeping, snoring dude. And so I'm gonna rank it a 5. I'm gonna be nice.
All right. How about you, Tammy?
I thought it was fun. I'm gonna go with a 7.
And you, Jake?
I've never really thought of this as a great movie, but it has a lot of nostalgia for me. Uh, I'm probably not going to be able to go higher than 7, but I'd say it's a solid 7.
All right. And as this is the only movie for this year that I did not see, out of the group, because it took place directly on Kim's birthday. So I abstain. So I will be dividing by 3 instead of 4, which leaves it where it is at a solid 6.
Okay.
All right.
Yes, this is a theme of the year that you all note that Brandon skipped a lot of my choices.
Yes, I did. I was there for your birthday, though. But I did see all of your choices this year, except for one.
Except for that one. Okay.
Except for that one. All right. So my choice for the month was Midnight Madness, which was this Disney film from the 80s that is kind of odd for a Disney film. It's kind of Disney's take on these National Lampoon style movies, where it was a wacky scavenger hunt. It kind of reminded me of a mix between Animal House and It's a Mad World. And they go on a very wacky chase. This film amuses me to no end. Really, when I was thinking of this, I was thinking of 2 movies. One was The Cat from Outer Space, which really was from my youth, because I watched it on there. And the other one was this because I saw it originally, and I was like, oh gosh, Disney did this, and it amused me that Disney did this movie. Because it amused me so much, I will actually give it... I can't give it a really high rating. I did have a good time with it. So I'll give it a 7. Very strong 7, because I did have a great time with it. How about you, Jake?
I will agree that I can't give this a terribly high rating. It's not a really great film, but it is a fun film. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed watching it. And I can give it a 7, I think.
All right. How about you, Tammy?
I have fun with it. But I'll go with a 6.
All right. And Dave?
I was amused by it, but it was not a great film. So I'm going to go with a 4.
You know that 4 is meant for films you don't like, right?
Yes, I get it, but it wasn't. I didn't like it, and I didn't love it, and it amused me. So that's where I stand. I'm still going to give it a 4.
Well, it sits right there with Apple Dumpling Gang at the 6 level. All right. Next up, I believe this was it yours, Dave, Flight of the Navigator?
Yes.
All right. Briefly, tell us what this is about.
Well,
and since it's your turn to rank also for this, you can rank it at the end.
It's about a kid who grew up in the 80s, and he ended up falling off a cliff, waking up, and it was, what it was it 12 years later? Something like that. And his family had moved on, and he didn't remember exactly what went on. And there's a very fun alien spaceship that takes him on a ride, and he's on the run from the cops. And there's definitely some amusing, laughable moments, and some moments like, what the hell is Twisted Sister, you know? But it's definitely enjoyable, and I have a lot of nostalgia with this movie. I'm gonna rank this a solid 10.
All right. How about you, Tammy?
Oh, I thought it was fun. I liked, like when he was the kids trying to explain things to the alien, and like David said, when he said something about Twisted Sister, he's like, "Well, what's that?" And I like the little, some of the creatures that were in it. It was fun. I'll do a 7.
Well, yeah, as long as it didn't have to see Wee. Did you know that was the voice of the alien?
So I'll go with a 7.
How about you, Jake?
It's a solid film. It's fun. I'm didn't really. I'm not 100% sure if I want to go all the way to 7. It's on the border between 6 and 7 for me, but I might be generous and tip it over to 7.
Well, I admit, I like this less than when I was a child. But then again, this movie was definitely more for child me than it is for adult me. I felt like the pacing was definitely off for me. But I still like the film. And I love that Pee Wee Herman plays the computer. So I'll give it a 6.
Okay.
And that boosts it up to an 8. Right next to Slaughterhouse-5, as they are similar films.
Your 6 boosts it up to an 8, huh?
It deserves better, but
Well,
I'm okay with it there.
Well, with Dave's 10 and the 2 7s, I should say take it down to an 8, but 7.5.
So what's your is this screen like? Are you losing things off to the side or what?
Yeah, because I don't have the full screen, so I'm not putting it at the end.
Okay.
But, mainly because I have other things in my little readout that I'm having to access as well. The calculations and the other info.
Right.
All right. So last but not least, Tammy picked Something Wicked This Way Comes. So Tammy, what was that about?
There's a carnival that comes into town, and basically they grant what people wish for the most, but it comes with a price.
All right.
So it's definitely something darker for Disney.
It kind of had a darker half type feel to it for me. And I had never seen it up until this point. It's a movie I really wanted to like more than I did. So I'm giving it a 6. How about you, Jake?
Well, I can agree that I wanted to like it more than I did because it just intrigued me in a lot of ways. There were a lot of parts that I enjoyed, and I think overall I enjoyed it quite a bit, but I didn't love it. So I could probably give this a 7, I think.
All right. How about you, Tammy?
I remember this when it came out, and it just, it's always stuck with me, it's something that I've remembered, all through the years, it's always been one in my head. It's like, so I'm gonna go with a 9.
A 9. All right. And you, Dave?
I want to give this a much higher number than I do, but because I know Disney fucked with it, and the story, and because they thought it was a hell of a lot more scarier originally, and they had to recast and redo scenes and whatnot. And this is what we got, kind of thing. Because Disney has no idea what they're doing, because they're a shit poor company to begin with, at least after Walt died. Sorry, I am not going to float anyone's boat on the mouse, but I'm going to go with I'm going to go with a 7 because I really do like the story. I do like the movie. At the end of the day, I do like what resulted of their stuff, but I really wish that I could have seen what it was like originally.
Well, it's definitely a 7.25, which is interesting. So, you know, I guess then we'll just have to work with things here. Let me see here. Did it go? There you go. There you go, Dave. I'm going to sit down here at the bottom, and he'll accompany anyone who gets down too far.
I think he needs to be below that, but
we'll pick up the pace here. So, September, we finally got into fall, and we start with the theme "When Animals Attack." With Tammy's theme there, and we start with one of Tammy's, which was "Man's Best Friend." So, what would you say was the Reader's Digest version of this?
There was a genetically engineered dog.
All right, and Dave, how would you rank Man's Best Friend?
Me?
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna rank it a solid 8 because I liked the mood of it. I liked the fact that you know that this mechanical dog could attack you, and it was one of those moments where you kind of had to suspend your moment of belief and believe it in order for you to actually enjoy this film. So I like it at the end of the day. Tammy actually turned me onto this one.
Well, Tammy, how would you say it was?
I think it's a strong 8. It was, you know, it's something. I mean, I liked it when I first saw it, so you know, it's part of my collection. So.
And you, Jacob?
Well, it's a good, solid film. It was a lot better than I expected it would be. It does lose at least a half star for the scene with the cat, but I think I'll give it a strong. I'll give it at least a modest 7.
Yeah, I thought it was an okay film. It was not my favorite, but I didn't hate it by any means. So I'll give it a 6.
Okay.
Divided by that. All right, that takes it up to a 7.
Okay.
A Man's Best Friend going all the way. All right, so next up on the list was Jake's one, which was Black Sheep. No, not the one with Chris Farley. So tell us briefly about this.
So this was also about genetic engineering and tampering with things we ought not to tamper with. And in this case, it's about a couple of brothers who grew up on a sheep farm in New Zealand. And one of them grew up deathly afraid of sheep due to a traumatic experience. And he comes back home to make a deal with his brother who's running the farm, only to find out that things are not as they appear.
So, well, I guess I'll start us off with this. I think it's a solid film, fun enough horror comedy. Does disturb me at points, so I'm going to give it a 7. How about you, Jake?
I don't know what it is about this movie, but I just like this movie. It it amuses me very much. It does have some disturbing aspects to it, and yeah, so I can't rate it too highly, but I'm almost tempted to give it an 8. It's at least a very strong 7 for me.
All right. How about you, Tammy?
It was very strange. Yeah. It was not. It wasn't not at all what I expected. When David was telling me about it, it was just like, okay. Wow. I'll go with a 6.
All right. And you, Dave?
Jake, I love you for this movie, so I'm going to give it a solid 10. I loved this movie. It made my night that night. The night I watched it.
I'm not a tree, I'm a sheep.
Well, this might satisfy you a little more though, because now that I can place them there, you'll actually see them starting to appear where you would feel they're supposed to be. So our next one was a classic that I brought up, which was Willard.
Okay.
The original Willard. This is a movie about a man and his pet rat and a lot of other rats doing nasty things for revenge.
Mm-hmm.
So, Dave, how would you rank the original Willard? Dave? Dave?
Yeah?
How would you rank Willard?
Sorry, I lost sound there for a moment. You were asking me what I thought of?
Yep. What is your ranking of Willard?
This original Willard, the fact that you get to see what's his face very young, I'm gonna give it a solid 8.
All right. How about you, Tammy?
I'll go with a 7.
All right. And Jake?
It was a pretty solid film. I was intrigued. I give it a 7.
You know what? I'll give it a 7. What the heck?
Lucky 7s.
Well, what do you know? 7.
What do you know?
So then we went with Dave. I know Dave did not finish us off. Tammy did. But Dave did bring us food of the gods. So we were thankful for the meal. So Dave, briefly tell us about what was Food of the Gods about.
Well, it's directed by Wisconsin's own Mr. Big. And if you watch this movie, along with many of his other ones, he tends to make things really big. Oftentimes it's a close-up of camera angles, but yeah, in here you see gigantic rats, hornets, you name it. It's all because of this specific food on this specific island.
All right, so I guess we're starting with me. Well, I will take a cue from Dave to say I was amused by this movie, but I was amused at a 4 for this movie. Because I did feel like it dragged a lot. So had amusing premise, but I didn't. I keep wanting to like it, but I can't seem to. All right. How about you, Jake?
Well, I definitely liked it more than that. I seem to remember this being one that I found flawed, and there were issues that I had with it, but it was also intriguing and decently well done, mostly. I think I can give it a 6.
All right. And Tammy?
It was all right. It was kind of draggy, and I don't know. I wasn't totally amused with it like other people. So I'll go with
I
a
seem
5.
to remember you thinking that the death of that old man just kept dragging.
How about
Although-
you, Dave?
I'm going to give it a solid 7.
All right. All right. That one gets well, it stays where it is. At a 6. Barely a 6, but a 6. Well, Tammy ended her month with Monkey Shines. I guess, Tammy, tell us briefly in your own words what Monkey Shines was about.
It was a monkey. It was he was trained to help people that were disabled, but not ever unbeknownst to people, the monkey had been injected with something to help, like to help his brain, genetic engineering, but nobody's aware that had happened to this monkey. So
Like a
the
lawnmower
monkey
man of monkeys.
ends up going kind of berserk.
So, Dave, how do you rank Monkey Shines?
I feel about this one like I feel about the dog one, because I love the feel of this movie. You do feel the intensity that this monkey is attacking with, and you get to see the POV of the monkey itself. So that is something in itself, which I don't care what you say. I before this movie, I had not seen that from an animal. So, so I'm going to give this a very high 8.
8. All right, Tammy.
I'm gonna go with a high 8 too, because I like the movie and everything, but it is kind of creepy to think that this monkey is supposed to be there to help, and then it turns on you.
How about you, Jake?
I thought it was a good movie. I was intrigued, and like a few of them this year was better than I was expecting it to be, but I didn't love it. So I think I'll probably go with a decent 7 for this one.
Okay. And I'm also going to go with a 7 on it. I really liked it. I thought it was a solid film, and I liked it since I was a small child. So I will give it that. I don't consider it one of the greater films, so I will have to just give it a solid good for that. So that is 7.5, which takes it up to 8. Right over there with Willard. We had a strong month that month. All right. Moving into scary month. Halloween. So,
all right.
We start with my pick, which was WNUF Halloween special. Well, this is basically a take on the old Halloween specials of the 80s. And it was done in a very creative way, utilizing techniques to make it look like a VHS tape had been put in there.
You say that there was something like this in the 80s. You have still yet to prove to me that there was.
This was pure 80s.
This was very much 80s.
Yes.
I was there.
Yeah, same here. I wasn't watching this kind of Halloween special probably, but I was watching TV specials. Yeah.
But since I know Dave is probably going to give this a 1, I'll give it a 10. So as to balance it out, because I really like this one. I think it's very creative. I think the fact that what they did to make the stuff work by taking it, running it through, taping it off of the TV over and over again until it actually looked that way, which I admit I'm too lazy to do that. I just use some of the other effects, which look okay, but this actually did look like it was a tape that was ran through. So I got to give it credit. All right. How about you, Jake?
I definitely give the film props for craft and creativity. And I know we had a long back and forth on this discussion about how authentic it was. And I definitely maintain that it felt authentic to me. Do I absolutely love the movie on its own merit from a storytelling perspective? Maybe. I mean, it's a pretty straightforward, nothing too deep there. But I do enjoy the movie. I very much enjoy it. I think it holds up on second viewing. So I think I'm tempted to give it an 8. It'll be a weak 8, but I think I'm going to give it an 8.
How about you, Tammy?
I wasn't impressed with it any which way at all. I'll go with a 4.
All right. And you, Dave?
First off, I know I'm going to be in the minority with this, but I'm going to give it a 1.
That's why I gave it a 10.
I'm not. It's crap. I call bullshit on anything like this in the 80s. If you want to find something that could look similar to this in the 80s and whatnot, fine. I bid you to prove me wrong. But there was nothing like this in the 80s. But it does have the feeling of the 80s. And I've seen better found footage things than this. I'm sorry.
Run any 80s commercial reel.
But I do know that there are a lot of people who like this director and like what he's done, and I don't want to totally knock his stuff because I haven't seen all of it yet. But this was crap.
Well, with everything rounded
That
out,
from the man that loves Bunny the Killer Thing.
yeah.
Well, that film I give it.
So with that being said, it rounds out to a solid 6. So speaking of high art, Dave brought up Killer Condom, which I'm going to put down here for the moment, just because it's because I'm running out of room here for me to see it.
Oh man, yeah.
He can sit here with Mickey Mouse for the time being to chase up. So tell us, Dave, what's Killer Condom about?
This is the film that introduced me to Troma. I first came across this for a friend. He told me about it, and he had it on VHS. And I had picked it up on DVD later on, and there's something about this movie that just attracts me. Maybe it's the dirtiness. Maybe it's now that it's been cleaned up. It looks great, and the fact that the director of Necromance 1 and 2 had something to do with the special effects. I mean, so I give this a very high 9.
All right. Well, I guess we will go up from there. Tammy, what do you rank this one as?
Do I have to?
Yes.
I just thought it was. I don't know. I don't know what to think of it. So we'll go with a 2.
All right. All right. How about you, Jake?
Well, it's lewd, crude, sleazy, and vulgar. And the fact that it's a German film set in America, but everyone's speaking German just cracked me up.
And it's based on a comic book series.
And it is based on a comic book series. This is the kind of movie I would never want to mention in polite conversation, as you should check this out. But in impolite conversation, I would admit that it is enjoyable. I can't give this one a high rating. It's not a great film, and again, it did make me feel a bit dirty watching it or even talking about it. But I was amused enough by certain aspects of it that I can give it a 5.
All right. Well, I'm not going to say I hated the film. And I need to watch it at least one more time to truly decide whether I like it or not. So, because there were parts of it that definitely did amuse me. But there are also parts of it that left me kind of like, as Jake said, feeling dirty inside. So I'll give it a 5 for now. All right. So I guess it just stays where actually it gets the flea Mickey Mouse, but it's right over there. It's snuck in between Incubus, which I guess is adequate, and Angel's Dirty Faces.
That's kind of a weird placement, but yeah.
So next up, Tammy brought us Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. Tell us briefly what that's about.
Well, it's Abbott and Costello. You know, they're normal comedy, and they end up meeting actually all the monsters. So.
All right. Well, I kind of like it, but it's not a strong like, so I'll give it a 6 for mine. They work well. It's fun. Jake?
I have always enjoyed Abbott and Costello. I'm a fan. And this is one of their stronger ones. Terrible title notwithstanding, because Frankenstein is a second or even third tier character in this movie. It's really Dracula and the Wolfman who are the main monsters. But I thoroughly enjoy this. Is it a good movie? No. But it's thoroughly enjoyable. I think I would give it a strong 7.
All right. Tammy?
I really like Abbott and Costello a lot. I mean, I probably wasn't into him that much until I met David, but then after that, after he showed me some of them, I really get into them. So I'm going to go with a 9.
All right. And Dave?
I'm very amused by this movie. Partially because the Frankenstein monster can't quit from smiling when Costello is on his lap. So I'm going to give it a very high 8.
All right. Divide that by. All right. So that takes it up to an 8. Okay. Moving on. Well, Jake ends us out with 10 Cloverfield Lane. Can you tell us what that's about briefly?
Oh, it's so similar to Abbott and Costello. Well, it's technically a sequel to Cloverfield, but it's very different, and it's almost like set in the same world, but that's really the main connection. And essentially, it's a world where some sort of weird alien creatures have taken over and destroyed huge sections of the population. And our young heroine, who is played by Mary Elizabeth Winstead, gets in a very brutal car crash and wakes up chained in a bunker, where she meets the guy who owns the bunkers, played by John Goodman, and eventually they meet a third person who's also living in the bunker, and turns out that this guy's decision to go underground theoretically coincided with everything changing outside, and he tries to keep everyone quote unquote safe, but it's not as it appears. And yeah, so that's your basic gist of it.
Or is it?
Yeah.
So I guess we'll start then with Dave. How do you rank 10 Cloverfield Lane?
You know what? I wasn't a total fan of the Cloverfield first movie when it first came out, but it in my mind has actually grown a little bit. Partially, I didn't like it because you couldn't see the fucking monster. It was so damn dark, like watching an Ang Lee film. Sorry, but he likes to film in total darkness and expects people to see shit. I liked.
Which one do you want?
Oh,
I
sorry.
couldn't find any results.
Anyways, I would say this one is probably the best one of the trilogy. So I'm gonna give it a 7.
All right. How about you, Tammy?
I don't know. I didn't like to really get into the Cloverfield movies either. I'll give it a 6.
All right. Jake?
To me, this one is completely different from Cloverfield. Like, again, I don't even think of them as the same kind of movie at all. I appreciate Cloverfield, but I just think of this one as its own beast. And speaking of beasts, John Goodman is a beast in this movie. It is one of his darkest roles, and he is a criminally underrated actor, and seeing him go completely off the rails like this is just great. I like movies that go into the dark side of human nature, and this one just really goes there. And I enjoy it, and I will. I'm not sure I would quite go 9, but this is a very solid 8, I think.
All right.
Yeah.
And though I don't agree with Dave on the first film, actually, though I will say that yes, a film where it's so dark you can't see the monster is rough. But in that film, you weren't supposed to see the monster. But I do agree with that, especially when it applies to that Godzilla film. Out of the new Godzilla films, I did not like that because you could barely see the darn thing. But I do agree that this was the strongest of the 3 films by far.
I still haven't seen Paradox.
It connects with it, but it's definitely not as good as this one. But I do recommend that you see it.
Yeah.
I don't recommend it, but that's I found it boring. But that's the beauty of it, is that some people can like the films and some people might not like the films.
Mm-hmm.
But this film, I think we can all be in agreement with, and I give it an 8 because I do find it was a very strong film. And that takes this to a 7.
All right.
Which right there next to Abbott and Costello, where it belongs.
Seems appropriate.
So November was Dustin's birthday, but we did have some placeholders in case he wasn't able to arrive to the party. So the first one that we had was Jake was a placeholder letter to Momo. And I was not here for Cloverfield for this one or the next one because, well, I wasn't even in the country for two of them. But I did see all three of them. So hey.
Good.
But what's a letter to Momo about?
So Momo is a young lady who is just moved to an island community in Japan with her mother. The father passed away suddenly and left her a note that simply said, "Dear Momo." He clearly couldn't figure out what to write. And so she's moping around, wondering what he wanted to tell her, and meets a trio of yokai who call themselves her guardian angels, essentially. And they get up into shenanigans. She tries to keep them out of shenanigans, all the while looking for answers about what her father was trying to tell her.
Well, I like this film myself, and I do find it very whimsical and enjoyable. Not the greatest film in the world, but a solid good film. So I'll give it a 7 for me. How about you, Jake?
I really like this one. I think it's really good. It gives you the feels a little bit. It is not my favorite anime I've seen. I'm not sure I would put it at a top tier, but I would actually give this one a weak 9. It's like almost on the border between 8 and 9. I think I would give it a 9.
How about you, Tammy?
It was. I liked him. I liked him more than I thought I was going to. Let's put it that way. Because it's another anime, but yeah, it was neat. I'll go with a 7.
All right. And you, Dave?
I'm never sure with anime because some of them are hit or miss with me. But
Most of them are.
I like this one more than I thought I would. I specifically liked one of the yokai, 2 of the yokais actually. I wish we'd have gotten more farting than we did, because that was great. And that's the moment I'm going to remember from the movie. And I guess I'm going to have to probably find myself a copy of it eventually, just specifically for that moment. I'll probably fast forward to that part and just rewatch that over and over because that was fucking
All I
brilliant.
know is when we were watching it, we both busted up laughing at that point.
I'm going to give it a solid 8.
All right.
And that takes it to a 7.75. So it is an 8. Run away from Mickey. There you go. All right, then Tammy.
Go by that crap thing with yours.
Then Tammy brought over arachnophobia.
All right.
So tell us briefly about arachnophobia, Tammy.
Well, this spider decides that it's going to come from where the rainforest all the way over to the United States, and it mates with a regular spider, and well, like all hell breaks loose because they're poisonous now. So, and that's basically it. Because nobody, the new doctor in town is trying to tell people about why these people are dying, and nobody wants to believe him because he's the new doctor in town. So then it finally gets exposed that they're dying of spider bites, and the new doctor in town does not like spiders.
It's putting him out.
When he's going to help hunt for them, it's real fun.
No. So, well, let's start with you, Dave. What do you rank this film?
Oh, I feel very similar to Man's Best Friend as I did with Monkey Shines with this. I very much like the mood that this sets you in, because it's the typical '90s, where it's a fairly serious film. There's definitely
This
quite
is
a
a serious film?
there's quite a bit of death happening, and I enjoy it as eight-legged creatures as they ought to. Well, I'm going to give this a solid 8.
All right. Tammy?
I definitely go for a solid 8. It's one of my favorite spider movies, and I can't stand spiders, but it's one of it's. I always get everybody picking on me that I like spider movies. I don't like spiders.
How about you, Jake?
Well, John Goodman is a much more decent fella in this one than in the previous. This was one that has a bit of weird nostalgia for me, and I was really happy to have a chance to come back to it for the first time in quite a long time. I very much enjoy the movie. My newfound view on spiders, where I have come to actually be quite fond of them, helps me have a different appreciation for this than I did when I was a kid. I enjoy the movie a lot. I don't think it's a great film, but it's an enjoyable one. It's a solid one. I'd probably give it a weak 8.
Well, I'm glad I wasn't on with y'all because I hate this film. I hate this film. I hate this film. And oh, by the way, I hate this film. Kill It With Fire. Kill It With Fire hard. I give it a 1.
Oh, wow. So that'll bring it down slightly.
But that takes it to a 6.
Why do you hate the film?
Okay.
I have many ways that I hate this film, and it's too long to explain this late in the night.
Oh, good times.
But
do you hate it more than that one that Dave hated so much?
I don't know which one. Oh, well, I probably hate it more than Dave hates WNUF. I don't know about
you hate it more than I hate Buddy?
Yeah.
That's a good question.
Oh. All right.
But one that I didn't hate necessarily was Bloodsucking Pharaohs in Pittsburgh. So what's that about, Dave?
Well, it's hard to describe really, but I'm not even. I think I picked this up at Half Price Books on a whim, and weirdly enough, it has a cult following, especially in Germany, because there's a really nice release out on their all region cult cult Blu-ray collection, and there's something about this movie, just like there's something about Killer Clowns from Outer Space and Bunny the Killer thing, and then just keep rising in the back of the room every time they glance at them. But I'm gonna. It's basically a detective story. It's It's almost a noir, like a modern day noir, and it's kind of connected to a case that this one detective is, I guess he's part of a serial killer killing case that has to do with Egypt and all that jazz. And there's something about the chief where he kills people while he's talking to his detectives. There's just something about it that I like, and the kills are different. So that it does have that going for it, but it is very staccato. So I'm gonna give it a 7. I enjoy it enough to give it a 7.
Well, I will say that watching this film, it gave me almost all the same beats that Killer Condom did, but but left me feeling less dirty. I think that I would give it I'll give it a weak 6, but it may be worth giving it a higher ranking if I had a better copy that I watched instead of that kind of crappy YouTube copy I watched.
How do you guys feel dirty about Killer Condoms? Y'all don't go to church.
But how about you, Jake? What's your ranking on?
Well, this one had an even more inappropriate title than the Abbott and Costello film did. I thought this should be about vampires or something. It was totally different. I had mixed feelings about this one. I really didn't entirely know what to make of it. It is entertaining to a point. It's not a great film by any stretch of the imagination, but it was definitely watchable and somewhat entertaining. I guess maybe a weak 5.
Okay. And Tammy?
I think I'll just go with a 4 on this.
All right. And all right. So this one can get up here with we'll put him over here next to the Grinch. So we ended the month with Boris and Natasha because it's good to be bad and it's bad to be good. As we follow the two Rocky and Bullwinkle stars and their own spin-off film where they have to crack the case of the missing time machine microchip before they get bumped off from the enemies at all sides and maybe even fearless leader. So let's see. So Dave, how do you rank Boris and Natasha?
Gonna rank it a 4.
All right.
Rocky and Bullwinkle didn't show up and technically be known until like the very fucking end, but I did get a kick out of Natasha, and I did get a kick out of the fearless leader guy.
Shut your mouth. How about you, Tammy?
I think I'll go for a 4 on this.
All right. Jake?
Well, this is definitely not a good movie, but it has its charms. It does entertain me. I'm kind of on the bubble between 6 and 7, but I'll be nice and give it a 7.
Yeah, I can't say this. This is not as good as my childhood. If it was like 20 years ago, I'd have given this like a solid 9 or 10. But I'm going to give it but I'm not going to say downright don't like it like Dave and Tammy. So I will give it I'll give it a high 7.
Okay.
Oh, that announcer was great. That announcer was
That announcer was great.
So that one actually rounds up to a 6. So
Okay.
right next to blood-sucking pharaohs there. All right, now we're into Christmas, last season.
Yes.
Jake, briefly tell us about Joyeux Noël.
Joyeux Noël is a war film that is based on a series of true events, but basically throws them all into a blender and gives us a a fantastical retelling of the Christmas Eve armistices of the first year of World War I, where soldiers up and down the line spontaneously decided to call truces. And the movie centers on one particular point on the line where French, German, and Scottish forces decide to call a truce. And they all celebrate Christmas under the watchful eye of their cat, who is the most important character of the whole film.
Well, so I'm going to give this a 7. I really like the film. I want to like it more, but there's some pacing issues and the ending. Both of those drive it down for me, but I definitely like the film and I feel it's a solid film. So I give it a 7. Jake?
I love this film. I really do. It is a perennial, well, it's not a perennial watch for me because, one, I'm not like you. I know you put on certain movies year after year after year after year. And I'm more like I'll hit the same movie every second or third or fourth year. This is probably one I'll hit every 4 or 5 years. I do think it is a wonderful Christmas movie. There are some pacing issues, and yes, it ends on a down note, but I think that's intentional because there are reasons why a war movie should not necessarily end on. Yeah, but anyway, I really like what they were doing with this one, and I will give it probably a really solid 8.
All right. And Tammy?
Well, I'm not really into war movies, you know that. So, I'll give it a 5.
All right. Dave?
Dave?
Huh?
Your ranking?
Sorry, I was having some audio issues there. I'm going to give the movie. I'm glad that it had a dub. I'm glad that it had a dub because if it had a subtitle, I would probably have put it a little bit lower. But I'm going to go with a. I did enjoy the movie, believe it or not. So I'm going to give it a solid 7.
Okay.
No, for the most part, we're in agreement. Well, which puts it at a 7.
All right.
Bye-bye, evil mouse. As he haunts the bottom. I think it actually works well. Get it away. So next up, Tammy brought us the Muppet Christmas Carol. I don't think we need to really get a description of this. I mean, it's a Christmas Carol with Muppets.
Right.
I think we can move straight to the ranking here.
Michael Caine is Scrooge. That's notable.
So Dave, how do you rank a Muppet Christmas Carol?
Well, if Disney wasn't as fucked up as it was, I would rank it a solid 10. But because they just some damn producer decided to cut the damn song from Belle, I'm gonna have to give it an 8.
All right.
Of course, they reinstated it, but later on, but they still cut it for many years.
Tammy?
Still pissed at them for that.
I'll give it an 8. It was a lot of fun.
Jake?
I ended up accidentally seeing both versions, and yeah, the one with the song is better. And so I'm gonna say it's a solid 8.
All right. See, I don't have the benefit that many of y'all had seeing it when you were younger.
I don't know if I did.
But I like the film. It's not my favorite Christmas Carol version, but it is an okay Christmas Carol version for me, and it is amusing. So I'll give it a 7.
Okay.
And that takes it to an 8.
All right.
Good times for all. All right. Dave gave us a French film, believe it or not. Dave, and a French film.
Yeah.
Deadly Games. So tell us briefly, Dave, about Deadly Games.
Okay, it's basically about a vagrant who kind of ends up as like one of those mall Santas, and then ends up going to the home of the mother of it goes. See, it's kind of hard to explain, but there's a kid. He's obviously stays home alone with his aging grandfather, and he enjoys playing these games on his own. But you can tell he's a product of money and pure boredom. So, and I kind of have to agree with you. It's kind of like Little Rambo mixed with Home Alone. And even the director straight up says, "I almost thought of suing them for this because they made my movie." But at the end of the day, it's kind of like a home invasion movie. So, what do y'all think of the rating, Tammy?
7.
So you enjoyed it more?
It was pretty good, I guess. I like the kid.
Okay. How about you, Jake?
It was a weird film. I think it could have been better, but it was very interesting, and it confused the crap out of me watching it through. But one of these days, I'll have to go back and watch it. Having watched what the director had to say about the film, I think I could probably get more out of it on a second viewing, but I'm going to have to probably go with a weak 7 for this go round. And that's being a little bit generous, but I think I'm going to go with a low 7.
Okay. What about you, Brandon? Where do you rank this?
Well, I get this film. This film has grown on me every year I've watched it. It's definitely becoming a favorite of mine. Not quite enough to get it an 8, but definitely a good strong 7.
Now, I had not seen this before, but I had heard a lot about this movie. Because of the many different titles it's been and the history that it seems to have had with horror film people, I'm going to actually have to give it a solid 8.
All right. So that puts us at a 7 at the end of the day, next to Muppets. All right, so I ended us with two shorts, because covering just one of these would probably have been a lot shorter. So we started with Mickey's Christmas Carol, which is essentially like Muppets Christmas Carol, but it's a short and it has Mickey characters in it.
Yeah.
So that's about as easy as I could explain it. But with Scrooge McDuck and his first animated appearance, to my knowledge.
No, I think there was one before, but this was the one that really kind of put him like in the lexicon as, oh, this is a major character.
Or at least before DuckTales, anyway.
Right. No, I think there was one previous short that he was in.
But
anyway.
We'll start with you, Dave. How do you rank this one? Dave?
Oh, this one's tough.
Yes, the mouse is a central character.
I do enjoy that. That was able, and I do somewhat enjoy the character that was the Ghost of Christmas Future. I think that Goofy was miscast extremely. So I'm going to have to go, and because I enjoyed the different characters, I'm going to go with a 3.
All right. How about you, Tammy?
Well, I thought it was cute. I'll go with a 6.
All right. Jake?
I quite enjoy this. I do agree that Goofy was dreadfully miscast as Jacob Marley. So that's a little weird, although some of the stuff with him was amusing. They cut out a lot, too, and the Christmas Carol is not a long story to begin with. But they cut out a lot, but some of the stuff they added was fun. Overall, I would say this is something that I will be happy to revisit on a regular basis. I'd give it an 8, I think.
If anything, it's a quick watch.
It is. Yeah.
Well,
for me,
this is my favorite rendition of A Christmas Carol. So I will give it a 10.
Sure.
Let's see here. So that takes it to a 7.
Okay.
All right. Last but not least, A Charlie Brown Christmas. This being the first Peanuts special. It follows Charlie Brown and his malaise as he tries to figure out the meaning of Christmas in a consumerist paradise. So this one I'm conflicted on myself because I do like this thing still, and I still feel it's an essential one. And the music, for the fact that it introduced the music itself that many of us have grown to associate directly with the Peanuts characters. I can't give it a bad rating, but I can't give it the best of all time rating either because it just feels there. So I'm going to give it the closest to essential rating and give it an 8. How about you, Jake?
Well, as we said in the discussion, this is one where my opinion has changed drastically over the years. I loved this when I was a kid. It was essential Christmas viewing. And the older I've gotten, the more problematic I find the Charlie Brown specials to be because I feel like they strongly encourage bullying, and Lucy is an evil, evil bitch. And I don't, Snoopy's a little asshole too. But this, the music is phenomenal. And it just, so I have mixed feelings about it, but I still see its importance overall to people. And I still do have a bit of nostalgia for it. And like I said, it has some strong points too. So I'll give it a week 7, I think.
All right. Tammy?
I really don't get into Charlie Brown, so I'll give it a 4.
All right.
Okay.
Dave?
I have some nostalgia for the Peanuts characters. I agree. There was a lot of bullying going on amongst the characters, and yes, Lucy is a little bitch. And Linus just has to grow up. He and Dustpan, well, he just needs like 1,000 baths or something like that. But I enjoy the characters when they're all to get together, and I guess I somewhat enjoy this one partially because of the Christian message. I'd forgotten that they were kind of like the chicken soup for the soul specials, you know, where they had a Christian message at the end of it. Because it makes me feel like at the end of it, parents can go and gather around and ask their kids, "Okay, kids, what did this have to do with Jesus Christ?" I'm going to have to. I can't give it a low score, and I can't give it a high score. So I'm going to go with a 5.
All right. That gives us a 6. It is okay.
Oh, okay.
So, looking at this real quick at the end of it,
Okay.
we have ourselves a 3 that we all agree were really good films.
That's some good stuff.
King Kong, Poor Things, and Hunt for Red October. We had 0 films that we all hated universally, which, you know, is there, other than Mickey with his teeth out. And we only had 2 films that we kind of went, no, I don't really care for it, which was A Christmas Carol, and which we had multiple Christmas carols on here, and Slam Dunk Ernest, which kind of fits. But for the most part, we kind of had some divided thoughts and takes on them. But for the most part, we had films that most of us enjoyed throughout the season.
Mm-hmm.
So I think
mostly we had a good time.
So I think it wraps up pretty well for the season.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I do want to say at the end of everything, the Mickey's Christmas Carol, I did enjoy watching it again. It's just they truncated it so much, and as an adult, I see that, and I like the Christmas Carol a lot as a story. So the fact that they didn't film a whole lot of it pissed me the fuck off. So.
Well, one of the scenes they left out, of course, was the one with Scrooge as a boy, which in the Muppets version, we got that great scene with Sam the Eagle. And driving around on this trip, when the GPS uses the word business, it reminds me of...
feels like it's something...
What's that? Yeah, I just love that. He's like, for business, it's the American way. Sam, for business, it's the British way. That's good times. But I had that running through my head several times on this trip.
Well, Dave, that's it for me trying to help guide us through the end of 2024. I guess take us home.
Well, hopefully you enjoyed our look over the year. I think it's kind of good to see what you liked and you disliked. especially when we discuss a lot of movies the way we do. So hopefully you enjoy what we did or didn't like. We're not always going to have the same opinions. So,
and I think you can look at this list and see that it is a varied and random list.
That's a good thing, because
certainly.
Yes.
And I don't think we really need to go into letting people know who we are, at least at this point in time. Well, when we begin the year, I'll go easy on you guys tonight. So we got a lot of these, some of the rest of the holiday to enjoy. So I guess at the end of the day, we'll figure out what movies that we have in store for you next year.
Well,
and
we'll be kicking it off next week with American Pie. Classic comedy from '99.
Oh, joy.
Yes. All right.
So we'll be seeing everybody next year.
Yes. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.